So it's finally time for the part that most people neglect to do when they are working on a vehicle, and that is a complete and thorough shakedown. We've had almost every nut and bolt on this thing apart, and there's stuff that's going to go wrong. You just got to accept it. There's stuff that's going to be wrong, and there's a lot of little things, a lot of tiny little things we got to fix. I'm not going to go, well, I'm going to try to avoid going into them in detail and being too boring, but I'm going to show what we're doing. I'm going to show how we resolved it if there's an issue. At this point, I don't know what's going to happen because I haven't driven it yet. I'm shooting this before any of the shakedown and anything. I got to change the oil. We're still running the original oil, unfortunately. It looked good. The guy had said he changed it at some point. I don't know. I want to pull the front hubs apart and grease them. Somebody suggested that to me, and I admit I completely forgot. So thank you, whoever posted that in the comments a few videos back. I appreciate that. I think it was maybe the brakes. And then, there's, does the power steering work? Do the brake work? Do the brakes work thoroughly? How does the clutch work? All those little things that make a nice running, driving vehicle. There's probably going to be a few little engine tuning things, tweaks to make it to actually run a little nicer. It doesn't idle great when it's cold now, and I don't know if I can resolve that, but we're going to find out. The throttle needs a little bit of a spring adjustment because it doesn't feel right on the pedal, because it's a tractor throttle. It's made to run like with a hand throttle and all that stuff. So a bunch of little things I'm just going to try to run through them quick and try not to gloss over them too much, but try not to go into boring detail too much. So that's the goal of this video. So let's get into it. First up, the oil. We're using our finest Costco Kirkland brand oil, which is packaged by Chevron. It's the exact same as the Chevron they sell right next to it, but you pay almost double the price for the Chevron name. Same API spec. This will work because this engine was designed to run on, just old regular dinosaurs anyway, so any little bit of synthetic help we can give it will be more than even it was designed for. So I think this takes 3 gallons. I think I've got 6, so we should have more than enough. This does take a Baldwin cartridge filter, which has all the O-rings and seals and everything we need. Did not skimp on the oil filter like I did the air filter, so don't worry. This is genuine Baldwin. So let's scooch under there, drain the oil, and swap it out. Well, here's the old filter. Other than being filter media being black, which you'd expect from diesel, not too bad. You wouldn't know for sure without cutting it open, but I'm not even going to bother to do that. The oil looked really good, and this filter looks like a nice high quality filter. I don't see a name on it, but I replaced the O-rings. New filter comes with new O-rings and everything. So let's fill this with oil now. It took 4 gallons exactly of oil. I don't know where they get 3. Maybe it's a different filter size on some engines. I don't know. That is an immense tractor amount of oil. Even my Duramax doesn't take 4 gallons. Anyway, glad I got that extra box of oil. On to the front hubs. I have it completely up in the air because we're also going to maybe attempt to test the 4-wheel drive. Everything, one thing you want to check, I already checked the rears and the brakes and everything, and they free spin. Now with the front, I don't think I showed, but they're a little bit stiff. And get them to turn, and there's some rolling resistance. Anybody who noticed in the initial drive when it was just like the cab sitting on the chassis, the old cab, the fronts were not tight because I could just let out the clutch. I didn't even have to give it any acceleration on the engine, and I couldn't because I didn't have the throttle hooked up to the pedal or even running into the cab, and it just took right off. On the last yard drive where I did it with after I put the interior in, it stalled out a couple times, and I think we're getting a lot of rolling resistance on the front. They will roll, but there is a ton of resistance there. And I don't know if that's the brakes or what it is. Maybe the brake, you can get a situation where the calipers don't release fully, or maybe it's the hub. I don't know, but either way, we need to check the hub and the bearings and all this stuff. So let's rip into this, and basically I'll just run through it and re-grease everything. If I find anything, I'll let you know. Yeah, this reminds me a lot of the winch. This needs a lot of cleaning up. I take this apart and hopefully it looks better deeper in. I have a feeling some water got down into the hub here, and well, I mean, I know some water got down into the hub here because there's water. But hopefully there's nothing broken in here. Let's see what we can do. Alright, I'd finally get this out. Just wasn't yanking hard enough. There was a lot of mud packed in there, and there still is. Had to run and get the right socket. There's this is a Dana 44, I think. Anyway, it uses these nuts, and I thought I had one of these sockets, and maybe I do and I can't find it. I'm not sure, but at any rate, that's how that goes. And I think there's supposed to be pins that stick through here, and I think I saw them broken off when I pulled that out, which isn't great, but that's just a lock ring, Okay, let's continue and see if we can get the rest of this hub off to get to the bearings. So as I feared, the inner bearing actually spins. The outer bearing is locked up tighter in Fort Knox, and we got a mixture of mud and maybe a little bit of grease inside. This whole thing was tremendously just filled with mud. So if you don't believe me that this thing was just sitting right down in the dirt, well, it was. I gotta see if I can find bearings and a seal for this. I'm not sure. Let me see if I can get the old ones out first, I guess. Well, I got the bearings and races out. This is a mess. Don't let your hubs sit in water, and if you do, or if you drive through water, you got to start cleaning stuff if it's not sealed good enough. There's one O-ring here, and then an inner seal that keeps the water out, and that's it. So I gotta do some serious cleaning. It is just muddy in there. All right, we got all new parts. A lot of money. I don't like putting money into things like cosmetics, but I do put money into things that matter, like wheel bearings. So these are all, the best you can get from Napa, basically. So I didn't cheap out. I know I usually do. but I didn't. So we got a new seal, we got new bearings. Just gotta clean up that seal surface over there. And then, anyway, let's put this all back together with some new high temp grease. Got everything back together. That's much better. That is much better. I did check the hub lock and unlock because you can see the inner yoke turn if it's locked, and I checked the unlock a couple times, made sure it popped out. It does have a little difficulty, you know, disengaging. You gotta shake it a little bit. That's fairly normal. That gear doesn't want to spring back right away without a little jiggling, so that's fine. I overly greased it. Usually you probably don't grease the outside, the four-wheel drive mechanism, or the locking hub mechanism so much, but I'm trying to keep water out of there. I didn't replace the O-ring that goes around that because I would have had to order one. It's easy enough to replace. You just pull that cover off, put on the O-ring, and put it back in again. So I decided the more grease I put in, the less water can get in. So that's where we're going for now. Now we just got to do the other side. Well, the passenger side hub was practically perfect in every way. That one, I guess, was not sitting underwater. I had thought that this side, from the pictures I'd seen of it, this side was the side sitting kind of submerged, but I think that side was kind of down in the mud pit all those years. Anyway, this one's great. It's got good grease in it, locks and unlocks, spins free and nice and easy. I'm going to call that one good because this was only supposed to be a check from the beginning, so I'm not going to rip into it and bother replacing the bearings if they're not bad. And all you people who say, well, do both sides at once, you can criticize me all you want. I don't know. Those bearings, that wasn't normal wear. If it's normal wear, then you replace them both at once usually. That's standard industry practice, but that wasn't normal wear. That was, you know, we left this sit underwater for 32 years. So this one, or, you know, underwater as the tide rises and falls, basically what I'm saying. So, this one's good. Hear the brakes a little bit, but yeah. Okay, so I think the next step, since we have it all up in the air here, is to start it up and lock these hubs in, put it in four-wheel drive, and make sure our front drivetrain works and is intact and hopefully noise-free. Hopefully it didn't, I mean, I already checked the fluids in the axles, and, you know, this center section uses oil and the outer section uses grease. So I think, you know, the center section should be okay. All right, let's, I don't know, let's start it up and see what happens. See what we need to fix next, basically. Now, one thing I noticed, the rear wheels are turning and it's not in gear. I guess there's some, I don't know, I guess a little drivetrain momentum feeds through on a manual transmission. I guess I've never done this with a manual transmission before. If that's not normal, somebody tell me about it. Huh, alright. I don't know, let's actually put it in gear and four-wheel and see what happens. Alright, let's see. So we're in 2 high, So that should be 4 high. Oh, I didn't lock in the hubs. Take it out of gear. Gotta lock the hubs in. That one. Full lock. Turn this one. Full lock. That one felt almost too easy. Okay, both are locked. Alright. Now let's try 4 high. Low. Yeah. Okay, let me show you. I can see it spinning here from the cab. Why is that one spinning so much faster than that one? And it's binding in the dirt there, but you get the idea. This one's not moving at all. That's fine. Huh. Did he gear them different? That's got a very intermittent kind of thing to it. Shouldn't be binding in the dirt anymore. That's odd. Sure, that's fine. That's probably, that intermittent jumpy bit is probably that drive shaft at that horrible angle. Probably U-joints binding or something. Oh, maybe not. Yeah, probably. That would be my guess. I see a loose bolt here on the bracket for the transfer case. We'll have to look at that. It's all part of the shakedown. Sitting and idling there like a tractor. Listen to that. Barely running, just a couple hundred RPM. Why can I stall this? Oh, because of the other wheel there. When you stall this one, the other one seems to go at the normal speed. There we go. It's that open diff, I guess. That one's going slower because it was just kind of freewheeling through the open diff. This is the actual driven one right now at the moment. Okay, interesting. Yeah, that, I don't like that jumpiness. We probably won't be using this very hard or very long in 4-wheel before I can maybe resolve some of these drive shaft issues. Okay, that's 2 high, that's neutral, that's 4 low. Okay, let's let her out again. Oh, yep, there she goes. Yep, definitely slower. All right, that all works. Neutral, 2 high, 4 low. Neutral, 2 high. Huh? That 4 high? Maybe that's 2 high. Yeah, there we go. That's 2 high. Okay. We'll disengage our hubs. All right. So what we have to do now, turn that off. All right, so I got to crawl under there and I got to try my best to resolve that loose bolt. I don't think that's going to resolve our kind of speed up and slow down here. I don't know if you could see it on camera, but was doing a kind of but much faster and without the sound effects. Everything in the front, I didn't hear any noises in the front. That's good. Obviously the hub's locked in and unlocked okay. Let's freewheel them here, just because no need to have those hubs spinning if we're not engaged in 4-wheel. I had a little bit of trouble with this caliper, and I don't know if it's releasing right. I don't know if it's the hose or what the deal is. So again, we might have to look at that. Yeah, that drive line angle, it's fine down there. Up there, I mean, that's like a, goodness, I mean, maybe a 30-degree angle. That's pushing it. it's such a short drive shaft. I'm not sure how you would resolve that. So when I did the brakes on this one, I didn't replace the hose on this side because it was working. It seemed to be unlocking correctly, you know, just backing off a hair enough for the wheel to spin. But now I had backed the caliper off when I took the, you know, the wheel off to look at the hub, because I didn't want the caliper interfering with, you know, my spinning and listening and things like that. So I backed the caliper off a little bit, just a hair, and it was free spinning, but now it's not. As I ran it and pressed on the brake pedal, it is just locked up. So what I'm going to do is loosen this hose and relieve pressure at the caliper, and if I can spin it then after that, then that means that probably the hose is collapsed and I'll have to replace it. So let me back that hose off. Okay, let's see. No, it's not backing off. Maybe the caliper's just jammed. Well, this is why we do shakedown, because if I had run with that, it could damage the brakes or overheat it, and overheat the hub and the brakes and everything else. So yeah, glad I'm looking at this. All right, let's get this wheel off. All right, so I replaced the line since I had a part, and I exercised the caliper back and forth. It was really, really hard to press in the first time. I think it had just sat in one position so long that, you know, hydraulic cylinders, they don't like to sit in one position forever, and maybe there's a little bit of corrosion or something in there. It moves a lot easier now. I don't know. Let's see. So right now I have it completely retracted. I put it on. Let's press the brakes and see if it does the same thing it did before. Might have to press the brake pedal a good couple times to work it out, because one press isn't actually that much movement. Let's see what we got. Alright, so it should have moved the yeah, it's not retracting still. Well, I mean, it's going to be a little tight because these kind of back themselves. That's great. Hope that's not from a lug nut on mine. I don't know. I mean, it's going to bind a little bit because they don't retract very well at all. They just retract enough for the wheels to spin. I don't know. Let's do it again. Well, I mean, it's better than it was before. I couldn't even move it. Is it perfect? No. Brakes will probably wear a little faster. I'm going to leave it like that for now, because at some point these brakes are going to have to be replaced anyway, and at that point we can just find the right calipers and put them on. As far as initial shakedown goes, this is good enough to drive it because it's not completely binding. It is freewheeling to some degree. I don't know. Let's put the wheel on and make sure it still turns, I guess. I mean, it is backing off a hair. It's not completely locking up like it was before. And maybe as we drive it, it'll help to exercise that and work it in a little bit too. So we might get that. But we'll see. So you can see here, it actually rolls about as good as the one on the other side. Like I said, these calipers never retract completely, and it's not as good as it should be, but it is retracting. It's not creating a ton of drag, and it's definitely better than it was before. So good enough to drive on for me right now. All right, well, we got all the little things cleaned up that weren't before. Got the rear lights, marker lights on here. Also put an exhaust tip on it. The exhaust was kind of short. You know, I like it to kind of, you know, it lines up with the bumper and the truck now, and it does have a little bit of a downturn, and I'm sure that'll rust pretty quick. But for the moment, it is a black tip. Makes it look a little nicer when you're standing back here, you know. And I tightened the transfer case mount, so hopefully that won't shake as much. What else? I don't know. I'm kind of scared to drive this thing. I have a feeling the first thing that's going to go wrong is these tiny little drive shafts, but I mean, these are stock Blazer drive shafts. The only difference is like the 6-inch lift on this thing. I probably won't be driving it in four-wheel much because I don't like that front driveline angle. It's just bad. And I can't imagine the original builder of this truck drove it much in four-wheel drive, because he would have quickly discovered that, or broken the U-joint. I don't know. I'm just not very confident in that drive shaft. I don't know, guys. I mean, this is a stock Blazer front end and stock Blazer frame and everything. The only thing is the skyjacker. I think it's a 6-inch lift, but I don't know. What do you Blazer guys do when you put a lift on it for that really front short drive shaft? How do you fix that angle? You put like a CV joint thing? I don't have that kind of money to make a custom drive shaft with a CV joint in it, but is there like an easy solution for this? The lower angle's okay, it's the upper angle. I don't know. Let me know. I would like to make it more four-wheel drive capable, but for the moment, that's what we're going with. All right. I think the next step is to actually drive this thing, and I'm a little bit scared because when you build a truck from all the nuts and bolts and everything, and then you go to drive it the first time and everything goes wrong, well, I don't know. We've done a good bit of drivetrain shakedown though, so I'm more confident in the drivetrain. It's everything else, you know, the underpinnings that haven't really been up to speed in 32 years that scare me a little bit. Well, yeah. I guess driving. I guess there's nothing for it but to drive it. All right, I got a little toolkit, and I got a feeling of existential dread and doom. Well, let's do this. Well, I had hoped that this stool would... I can't reach it. I can't. Yeah. Yeah, this little stool's not going to do the trick. I can tell you that right now. We're going to need something bigger. Yeah, not going to do it. All right. I don't know where I'm going to put you guys here. I don't have a good setup for this. Tripod, maybe? We'll figure something out. All right. I think you guys should work on the tripod here. Probably fall over at some point. I don't know. First stop we need to do is go down to the diesel station and fill this thing up because I don't have much fuel in it. Hopefully we make it. Alright, hopefully it won't be as prone to stall either after we did the modifications. Power steering's working. That's good. Brakes are still working. Alright, here we go. so far so good. Let's put some fuel in it. Well, we put 18.5 gallons in it. Talked to about 3 different people about this thing. It sure does draw attention. Well, let's Alright, I don't know. Top speed's not there. Why is my fuel gauge not working? I know it has fuel in it. Maybe the float's stuck or something. It actually went down. Well, I don't know. Maybe it's backwards. Huh. It's working. I don't know. This is why we do a shakedown. Alright, let's see what we can do for getting home. Alright, here we go. Oh, I put my seatbelt on. I don't trust any part of this. My GoPro went dead again, as it does these days. Back on the phone, we've gone 4 miles, and well, I mean, it looks like the gas gauge, I guess that's full. I don't know. I don't have the air compressor engaged right now, but I mean, the engine stats are looking really good, and it does make good vacuum. And when I step on the brakes, the pedal's nice and hard. Yeah. Radio still works, that's the important part. Well, I don't know what to make of this thing. The pedal, the throttle pedal is too stiff. I'm gonna have to find a way to adjust that. If I underspring it on the engine, it tends to stick a little bit because of the pedal, but if I overspring it, it's too hard to press on the pedal. So I'm gonna have to do something about that. The steering works fine. The driveline noise, there's some awful driveline noise that changes when you release the throttle, you know, when you're engine braking versus accelerating, and it's noisy both ways, just in different ways all around. I'm definitely going to have to look at that. I'm probably going to have to pull the axle covers and take an in-depth look at that, I think. So, let me boil down driving this thing in as short terms as possible. It is absolutely terrifying. And that's not because it doesn't feel unstable. It does feel a little, the steering is not even loose. The steering is very, I don't know, like it's a lot of turns lock to lock. And, well, the turning radius is not very much for all that you get out of that. I was really hoping the turning radius would be more, but I think with the four-wheel drive and the lift, you're never going to get that. The driveline noise in this thing is really, that's the terrifying part. The engine is very confidence-inspiring, other than the throttle situation that we have to resolve, because it has no throttle response. You have to mash your foot down on the floor, and because the throttle's so stiff, it creates a lag time. If you've never had a stiff throttle like that, or like on a tractor or something, this is basically like driving a tractor. If you've ever driven pretty much any size tractor on the road at high speed, well, that's pretty much exactly what this thing is like. Only the difference is you have kind of a cage around you a little bit more than some tractors, and you're going a lot faster. So in that regard, it's even more terrifying. So at this point, the next part of this shakedown is to try to make this less terrifying, is what it boils down to. So I think one of the contributing factors to the noise are these tires. Knobby tires like this, and these aren't even really knobby, are tremendously loud. So I'm hoping that that is a good portion of our noise. And these aren't brand new or anything even. I guess one has a chunk just taken out. I think I'm going to overinflate them a little bit. And I'm going to see if that helps. I didn't actually double check the air pressure, but they look like they're sitting pretty flat. Now, if they're underinflated, they might be cupped a little bit, but I'm going to try to reduce the contact patch a little bit. Also, something I forgot to mention, at the fuel station, my camera was dying and I had to resort to phone usage. I got to do something about this camera. I just don't have the money for a new camera, but it's awful. It feels too slow. I've got to resolve this. And I don't even think too much that it's this long stretch, because if I hold it on at a certain angle and a certain trigger setting, it does just sit there and fill. I don't know if it's this corner here. It's just ever so slightly restricted. I'm not sure. Yeah, we're gonna look at that. But that's pretty low down on the priority list. As far as shakedown goes, I would like to get it to the point where it's a little more comfortable to drive. Now the transmission shift's great. I feel like this transmission was almost like brand new or something when this guy built the truck and then let it sit, because the synchros and everything are just, they're absolutely gold. And I've driven some pretty old SM465s, and this is nothing like that. It drives almost like a new one, which is to say isn't great, because it's still an old design transmission. But the steering wheel's off center a little bit, but I expected things like that because it's hard to get one of these perfectly aligned, and I never touched the alignment. But it doesn't pull too much to one side or the other. It doesn't have any tendencies to walk or, you know, death wobble or anything when you hit bumps or anything like that. So that's good. So we've operated this engine a little bit now, and in an old diesel engine, even when you change the oil, when you run it a bit, the oil will instantly get black again. Let me show you what we got here. So this is the oil. Other than the tint, you can hardly see it on the dipstick. It's still brand new. That reinforces my belief that this engine is extremely unused, because it doesn't have any It doesn't have a lot of carbon, or I shouldn't say any because I don't know, but it doesn't seem to have a lot of carbon buildup or anything inside the engine. Or even, you know, lots of residual soot in the oil pan or caked on stuff, you know, it sometimes happens. So that's a good thing. And also our coolant is holding up still perfectly at the normal level. Engine's good. All right, so I disconnected the throttle from the cable and it's got perfect return, not binding. I think it's all in the cable. I'm gonna take this cable off and double check it. I guess I'm gonna take it off completely because it's like all 100% of the binding is in that cable. Here it seems pretty easy though. I don't know. I'll have to check that out. So here's our throttle and throttle pedal, and you can see when everything is in its regular alignment, you can see that scrape mark. Well, hopefully you can see it. Scrape mark. What's happening is the cable is sticking out a little too far and it's scraping on here as it passes, and I think it's binding on that a little too. I had made some adjustment on this end of the cable and it sticks out a little further. Alright, I think I have the throttle problem resolved. Basically, I kind of rerouted the cable a little bit and made some adjustments to make sure it wasn't binding, and also modified the bracket down there for the pedal for this style cable. So now it responds pretty good and you don't have to put 100 pounds of force on it. So, allow me to play for you the sound of my people. Yeah, so that's about the throttle response I would expect from this engine. It's still got, you know, a slight delay because it's a tractor engine, but the pedal responds now, so it's much easier to drive. So I would like to get the full functionality of this wireless winch controller. In the bumpers and winch video, I got the relay to click, but I didn't finish it and get these done because I needed to move on and, you know, finish this. But now that we're in the shakedown, I think it's time to get this, maybe, you know, get all the functionality there. I'm gonna pull this cover off, check the wiring, let's see what we got. So I wired it according to the instructions, and I wired it the same as the hand controller, the wired controller that I have. The yellow here and the blue are tagged together. Those are the two directions for the winch, and then it switches the negative, so you have the negative incoming. I'm not sure. I mean, obviously that must not be right for the wireless controller. I need to double check the wiring diagram on there and see what it's actually switching. I must have something, I must have an assumption wrong in how they have it operating, so let's take a look at that. So I just had a positive and negative reversed. It's supposed to switch the positive. Apparently, even though it says it switches the negative on the wiring diagram, that's not true. They have that reversed on the diagram. So I also reversed this one to switch the positive instead of the negative side. And now, so we have this one that works like it did before. And we also have our remote. It works too. Alright, we have two remotes for this. Don't know if I'll ever need it, but anyway, I like to have everything that's on the vehicle working, so that works now. So I feel like this video is getting a little long, despite my best efforts, but I want to show all the little things that go into shaking down a vehicle, because not everybody appreciates it. When they see a really expensive truck for sale, they don't appreciate all the effort that went into making that build fully functional, not just something that was slapped together and then sent off to the races, you know. So I think there's going to be another one of these. Maybe we're going to try to sift out some of the noise, quiet this drivetrain down a little bit, maybe, I don't know, we'll see. we're definitely going to dig into the drivetrain, at least open up the differentials and things like that. So I'm not sure what else we're going to do other than probably some little things to, you know, make this a little bit, have some more street manners maybe, but that'll be coming up. I apologize that the shakedown's going to be so long, but it is what it is. But I appreciate all the comments, questions. I'm sure you guys will leave as you usually do, and as always, thanks for watching.